Hello, and welcome to another episode of SMU Single Mothers Unite. I have with me today Andrea Starr, and she is the CEO and Executive Director of a nonprofit organization out of Central Virginia called Forward Foundation, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Wonderful. And I'm excited to have her because, ironically, she happened to watch our last interview with Keisha Pollard about teen pregnancy and single motherhood. And so I was so excited that she reached out to me and so honored that she allowed me to be able to have her time today to be able to interview her. But I'm also excited to have her share with you about the foundation that she oversees and the resources that they have to offer to other fellow, not just single mothers, but single parents, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Wonderful. So, Miss Andrea, thank you and welcome to SMU Single Mothers Unite. And just to start off, tell me a little bit about your foundation, Forward Foundation, right?
It is. It's Forward Foundation. We are actually located in the Richmond area. Um, we have been in existence since January of 2020. We we launched Forward Foundation after a rebranding and from an organization that had been around for about 10 years. And the focus on Forward Foundation and why we felt it was something that was so critically needed was that we are really looking to serve a very specific niche. So Forward Foundation, as you mentioned, works to assist single working parents and their children. So it's for the entire family who have encountered some type of life-altering event, which has resulted in financial crisis. And life-altering events can be many different things. It can be a divorce, it can be a death, it can be separation, it can be a job loss, a multitude of you know things that can happen that can cause that. But what makes us unique and why we felt the foundation was so important was what we had found and what I had personally lived myself is that there are a lot of services that are available to specifically single moms, not necessarily single dads. That's something that is very much overlooked, and I'll share why that's so important to me a little bit later. Um, but that there are services that are available within the state for people that qualify for them. You know, if you make below a certain income, you're eligible for. You have to do some research, but there's a lot of resources that are out there, right? But then we hit this gap of everyone else that is struggling but isn't eligible. And it is solely based off their income. So it could be you're making $1 more than what that cutoff is, or you're making $100 more, or you're making $10,000 more. And people say, well, why would they need it? They don't need help. But this is the issue, Megan, is that on paper, everyone says, oh, you're fine. You don't need support. But when you have gone through a life-altering event, your lifestyle up to this particular point has been based off of 2 incomes. And now all of a sudden it's 1. And there's nobody that's there to support you. Or you never had a dual income and it's solely been on you. And even though on paper it looks like you make enough money, you don't. Your 2 biggest expenses as a single parent are childcare and housing. And for families that have one child, and most of them have multiple, but for families that have one child, your average cost of your household income, your average percentage of your household income that is going towards childcare is 34%. And on average, for full-time care for an infant or a toddler, you are spending anywhere between $12,000 to $15,000 a year on full-time care. That's a huge chunk of your budget, even if you're making $50,000 a year, $70,000 a year. That's for one child. So if you put those numbers, you do the math, and you put that in place with your housing, with your car payment, with food, with your utilities, you're quickly watching your earnings diminish. We're not talking about extracurricular activities. We're not talking about anything other than just the necessities. So I'm delving a little bit deeper into the question that you asked me, but I'm wanting to explain why what Forward Foundation does is so different and so unique and so unbelievably important, because we have 11 million families across America that are raising 19 million children that are single parent led families. 86% of that 11 million are single mothers. And I think as women, we all know it's a fact. I mean, I'm not making this up. It's not bashing. It's just a fact. Earning potential for women maxes out at about 40 years old, where for a male, it maxes out at between 55 and 60 years old. So they have an additional 15 plus years to be able to continue to build on their earning potential, where women do not. And again, it's not bashing. It's just like, that's it. That it's a fact. And so why is this so important? Why is the number so high for single mothers versus single fathers? I'll share with you too that the growing number of single fathers is astronomical. Over the last 7 years, the percentage of single parent-led families that are led by a single father is now over 16%. And wow. Yes, it's one of the fastest growing family situations that is happening right now is the increase in single father-led households. Even though their earning potential is higher, and typically maybe the need for financial assistance for childcare may not be as high, they are still facing the same type of crisis as far as financial crisis goes, with being solely responsible for covering everything. And you will notice if you go out and you look, there are a lot of articles out there about single dads starting their own businesses so that they have the flexibility of being able, like us moms, to pick up and drop off and get to, all the things that we have to do with their children, and the challenges that they face. So again, I'm kind of veering off a little bit, but that's why what Forward Foundation is doing is so immensely important. And I've talked about the impact that the foundation can have on a family. But
this is amazing, because this is what SMU is all about. This is what SMU was created for, to give single mothers a platform, to give them a voice, to, although it may not resonate with every single circumstance, I'm sure somewhere somebody can find something that they can resonate with. Because I know when you were talking about this being the gap filler, basically, this foundation, I could resonate with that, because I've been in situations before. I'm a single mother myself of 3. My children are now 20, 19, and 10. But there was a point, within their, when I was rearing them, when I was raising them, that I struggled greatly, and even still now, from time to time, it's unfortunately, it's not necessarily a linear process. Sometimes it has those ups and downs. But I can remember specifically one time when I was working this job, and I had taken this new job because it paid more money, and it was kind of a bit of a step up. Didn't pay that much more money. But shortly after, I got into this job, I was miserable. I hated it. I did not like it, because there was absolutely no room for growth. And it doesn't mean it was a bad it wasn't a bad work environment. I'm just, for myself, I need that ability to be able to grow. But with that, I had a toddler. I think he was maybe 1 or 2. And I was paying at that time, which I know has probably greatly increased since then, what, 130 a week
Mm-hmm.
in childcare. That maxed my budget.
Yep.
Between that and my mortgage, I
Yep.
couldn't afford anything else. It was so bad that I had to, like seek services for food because I never had any money left over. And it wasn't because I wasn't spending my money wisely. I haven't made all the right choices financially, as most people haven't, but I've
As
always
the
been,
majority, yes.
as the majority, but I've always been very frugal minded. And I've always known how to budget because that's something that you have to do and to make money stretch. But I said all that to say, I was so miserable and I've never been this miserable at a job. I love to work. Working is my thing. I was so miserable that I decided to quit. And I quit the job and started my own business working from home. And my plans, the rug carpet was ripped out from underneath me, but it ended up, hindsight being one of the most phenomenal times for me and my children because I was able to spend so much more time with them. I wasn't miserable. I was still broke, but I wasn't broken working, which is even worse.
Right.
When you're going to a job every single day and you're putting in your time and your effort and you're giving it all, but there is absolutely nothing left over. That's the most miserable feeling in the world. So I only wish I'd had this kind of resource at that time because it would have made such a world of a difference. So I'm so grateful for what you guys are doing for the community because, it's amazing. It was one other thing that you said too that sparked something that I wanted to speak to. When I first started SMU, I drew out the plans. God had given me this vision years prior to ever starting it. And I just didn't have the confidence at that time to really get it up and going because I thought, who's going to listen to me? This, that, and the other. You have your fears that hold
It's
you
all
back.
those
And
limiting beliefs that take over our brain.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. And I can remember at that time presenting it to my church because, they had a better foundation. And I thought maybe that would be the case. But I can remember when I presented it and they just didn't, the people that I had presented it to had never been in my shoes, had never stepped in the shoes of a single parent. And so they just didn't get it. They didn't understand it. And it never got off the ground. And so after that happened, it fueled me. But I can remember the questions that they asked. Well, if a single mom, makes X amount of dollars, what is she doing? And ends don't meet. What is she doing with the money? The leftovers. Like, what is she? I'm like, leftovers.
There are none. Yeah.
So
That's
when
the
I
whole
hear you
problem.
say these things, it rings bells of like solution. It rings bells of empathy. It rings bells of understanding that there's someone who can get on your level and understand your crisis, understand your issue. You're just trying to parent and be a good parent with what you have. And there's someone like you and your foundation who has those resources to be able to say, okay, I can meet you where you are. So I just wanted to say those, give those little stories to say, I can, I just love what you're doing and everything is just coming together. So tell me, I did read on your website that you guys don't just offer the help that's needed to fill the gap, but you guys offer, what is it, financial planning and coaching, things like that, right?
Yes, we do. So it was very important to me when I took this role on because I too was a single mother for about 10 years. Coming out of I got married very young to someone that I hardly knew. Just not a good situation. And like you mentioned earlier, if only there had been a Ford Foundation for me, I could have I could have made different choices. I could have left a lot earlier than I did. I stayed in a marriage for 28 years and did not
Wow.
leave. And it was an abusive marriage. And I did not leave until my youngest was a senior in high school because I was by myself. So when you talk about what a difference having support would have made, um, I'm speaking for myself when I'm not just from the foundation, but from myself personally. And that's why when this position was presented to me, it just pulled my heart like a magnet, because all I thought about was the deep dark hole that I had been in when I was going through my situation and feeling so helpless and so isolated. And so, many of us are ashamed of our circumstances and all of the things that we beat ourselves up with, like those limiting beliefs. I'm never going to be able, how am I ever going to be able to support myself? How am I ever going to be able to take care of my children? All of those things. But you also touched on how miserable you were with your job and how that affected you. You just, when, and that relates to the situation, right? If your mental health is at the lowest of the low, you can't take care of yourself, let alone take care of anyone else. So whatever it takes to get yourself onto stable footing is what you need to do in order to be able to move forward, to be able to take care of your family. And when this position opened up and I heard about what they were doing, it was something that I obviously felt very, very passionate about. And when they talked at the board knew that they wanted to be able to offer childcare subsidies to single working women that were doing everything they possibly could, but just wasn't enough, right? But we also have things that we offer to our families. We have an attorney that does an estate plan. And typically when I say an
Wow.
estate plan, people are like, well, I don't have an estate. But what that means is it's your will. And it's important that you have these um, these these documents and these
In
decisions in
place.
place prior
Mm-hmm.
to an emergency happening. So when I talk about an estate plan, I'm talking about you choose, as the parent, you choose who you want your guardian to be. You have your power of attorney, you have your medical directive, you have all of those things in place. These are things we don't think about when we're in the midst of the challenging time of being a single parent, but they're really important things that need to be taken care of. And we certainly don't have the extra financing to be able to afford these things. So this is something that we do while you're in our program. Um, and those are the kinds of things that we're talking about, like car maintenance, basic car maintenance that most of us don't know how to do on our own, but we could save ourselves some money if we learned. So we have an organization that teaches how to change getting your kids involved and yourself involved in knowing how to change your oil and changing your tire and windshield wiper fluid and maybe even your brakes if you needed to. So it's all of these things that we put together. We have feeding a family on a budget. We have the children's educational piece that we offer. I know I'm forgetting like a million things that
It's
we offer,
okay.
but a lot of different community partners that we bring in to assist our families during these times of need. And it's a requirement. So if you are in agreement to be part of our programming, your child care subsidy, if you are looking to receive that, is contingent upon you finishing and completing these workshops. We also do monthly check-ins where we share positive news. I mean, we did a meal prep, which we're
Oh,
able to do
love
via
that.
Zoom. So not only is it teaching how to feed your family on a budget, but it's also now you have the community support that we're all going to meal prep together. And now you have 3 meals that are ready to go for the next week. And we cover the cost of, the needed groceries, like special groceries that might be needed for that
Wow.
type of thing. And then just the different, community events that we do. We go on hikes. We do a baseball game. We have a car maintenance pop-up shop that we're getting ready to host this Saturday. Um, so many different things that are ways to come together so that you feel like you're part of a community where you're not feeling so isolated. You're not feeling that you're the only one that is going through something like this. And it's important to have that circle around you and that support around you, whether you want to vent or whether you want to be silent or whether you want to just share some words of encouragement. It's all needed, it's all welcomed, it's all about supporting one another. So those are the areas that we focus on within the foundation, are to support, to educate, and to empower.
This information, the things that you're sharing, are hitting home, and they are wonderful. Such a wonderful resource, and just like you said, such a step up for empowering.
Mhm.
It's really empowering things like, the educational piece and the legal aspects of setting women up to be, not just women, sorry, men and women, single parents, setting them up to have those abilities to put those legalities even into place to be able to um, have a secured future. That's it's amazing. Tell me more about the program. How would a single parent, um, what would the process look like for them to be able to become a part of your program?
So we typically have so in order to find out information about us, we have our webpage, which is Forward Foundation VA, like Virginia.org, and you can submit through that. The majority of the people that reach out to us have either heard about us through social media, through somebody that's in our programming, or we've also had radio and TV promotion and publicity with the different things that we've done. So to be eligible for our program, you need to be working, or you need to be a combination of either working and going to school, working, or in school finishing up some type of advanced degree. And that would be, number one, to just know. If I'll throw this out there too, if you are receiving services through the state and are eligible for that, we wouldn't necessarily encourage you to leave that and reach out to us, because you're going to get more through the state than you're going to be able to get from us. The time to reach out to us is when you're not eligible for services, or they're very limited. I mean, because we do have some families that do receive some food assistance through the state, that kind of thing. But I don't want to discourage anyone to leave what they're in if they're receiving a good amount of support, because we probably would not be able to match that. But once things are more stabilized, then that is when you would want to reach out to us. And then the process is that you would reach out, you would hear from our program director, who's going to, talk to you on the phone, share more information, learn more about the individual that's interested, and then is going to send an application. The application is extensive in regards that we're asking for your financial information, we're asking for your tax records, we're asking for your employment history. And people say, why? Because it's important that not only are you a good fit for us, but that we're a good fit for you. And so what we are offering within the program, if you're really in need of securing housing, or your job isn't quite where it needs to be, you're not working full time, that kind of thing, or you're just getting started into school, you're not quite ready, and what we're going to be offering through our program isn't necessarily going to be beneficial for you right now. So I share that because it's important that people understand that. And we do not do anything in regards with housing assistance. You need to have secure housing. We certainly have resources that can, our program director can help guide with, but those things typically need to be in place. So again, it would be reaching out, to us via our webpage or email, talking to our program director, and filling out an application. And then once we receive that application, we would then meet you in person. Mary and I, Mary is our wonderful program director who has 20 plus years of social work background. So she knows her stuff and is a plethora of resources. We're very fortunate to have her. And then we sit down and we really talk about your application, where you are, what are your biggest challenges that you're facing right now? How do you feel the foundation would be able to support you? And then we make a joint decision. Is this the right fit?
So what does your program look like? Like, is there a certain amount of number of people that you take like per session
Yes.
or year or program year?
Yes.
And how long is the program? Is it something that you are the overall program is something that you're locked into for like, a certain period of time, or is it literally just a community that you become a part of? What's
Yeah,
that look like?
great questions. So our budgeting allows us to take in 12 families for childcare. So it's very small and it's very intimate because, again, we delve pretty deep and we want to make sure that all of these things that are needed are being provided. So does that mean that it means that some of our families aren't necessarily in need of childcare subsidies
Mhm.
and they could still be part of our program, that we can help
Okay.
in other ways.
Is that per year or how often?
So it's per year,
Hmm.
but remember that people are constantly phasing out,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
when I say phase out, that doesn't mean they're not part of the program. It just means they've
Graduating in a
utilized,
sense.
yeah, they've
Hmm.
utilized their subsidy. There's a total amount that's given for each family. And sometimes we were in the midst of COVID, so that was extended for families because they weren't utilizing it. So whereas the program was initially set up to be about 12 months, we realized that wasn't quite long enough. And we extended it to 18 to 24 months. But
Okay.
it's it's not a cutoff when you get to that point. It's let's
Yeah.
talk about where are you? Um,
Relationship.
Absolutely. And are you still in a period where you need help? And unfortunately, we're small enough that we can take those on individually and we can make a decision based upon, what, they had a period of time where this and this happened. Maybe there was a surgery, some type of medical crisis, or there was a job loss during that period of time. So all of that's taken into consideration. So in answer to your question, typically the program is 18 to 24 months, but we have the flexibility to base that off each individual's circumstances and make accommodations as needed.
Another question is, are you guys restricted to a particular demographic? Is it just Central Virginia that you serve, or um, is it specific to Richmond, or what's the demographic for your
Yeah,
program?
that's another great question because ideally we want to be across the state. We'd love to be able to offer the support across the state, but the bandwidth that I have, that's not a possibility right now. I'm not capable of doing that. But I also will share that a lot of what we do, you don't necessarily have to be in person for, and especially with the pandemic, right? We've all made the accommodation to doing things virtually and doing things through Zoom. So it's opened up the possibility for us to be able to expand our reach. So a lot of our workshops we do as a group, and then
Okay.
they're able to meet with the leaders of those workshops individually. So for example, we did the estate plan workshop as a group to just go over the basic questions, right? And then when they needed to talk about their individual plans, then they're meeting with the attorney on their own. So we do have times where you do need to come in and meet with us in person. And as long as you're willing to do that, if you're an hour away or a couple hours away, we're happy to be flexible with that. But you have to understand that there will be times we do 2 major events each year, and it is required for our participants to be at those events. One is in February, one is in the fall. And so again, making those accommodations that there will be times that you may have to travel to come and be a part of things. Obviously, when we're doing things in person, we encourage as many people to come and be a part of that, but it doesn't limit us to being able to reach out to Virginia Beach or to Fredericksburg, or, if there's a slight distance that we could be able to offer support. And our goal is to be across the state, and within 5 years to be across the nation. So
It's coming.
it's coming.
Because I do want to make this clear to the audience that Forward Foundation is not just, and by no means do I, when I say this, am I demeaning any organization, okay? Because it only takes one person to make a difference. But your organization is not like a mom and pop scenario, kind of like, what I got going on here with SM. You guys are a team. It's a team of, professionals that have funding, and it's a nonprofit. What is it? It's
501c3.
501c3
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit. So you guys have a legit, foundation here. So tell me, with that, I have two questions, but the first one, tell me how anyone looking to donate, because I'm assuming that with you guys being a nonprofit, you thrive off of donations, correct?
That is correct.
How
And
can people in the community get involved with what you're doing?
thank you for asking that, because so
Absolutely.
many times I talk about the foundation and I never broach that subject. And obviously, as a nonprofit, that's what keeps our doors open.
Yes.
The community, without the support of the community, there wouldn't be a Forward Foundation. So we rely, and we are privately funded. We don't have government grants. We don't have everything that we do is all privately funded. So for people that are interested in wanting to support us, again, you can donate through our webpage. It's all
I'll
secure.
include those links. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's all secure through our webpage, which is probably the best way to do it. I mean, you can do it through online, through the webpage, or obviously you can, send a check, or, do something that way too. But you can look up, all of our information is public. You can see everything
Legit.
that's out there. We are gold level on GuideStar, which is ratings for nonprofits. So everything is public, and you can certainly look into it, and always feel free to reach out to me to ask more detailed questions. I do have a lot of donors that have done that, and I am happy to share whatever information I have. But everything we do is privately funded. So
Okay.
obviously we need the financial support.
Talk to me more about those partnerships that you mentioned previously. You talked about partnering with employers. Tell me a little bit more about how employers can get involved with what you're doing.
Yes, and I think this is so important for businesses and employers to understand that their engagement and their support makes a huge difference, not just to the community, but to their employees, and their staff. And we can all say we know somebody that sometime that has been a single parent and has been adversely affected by it. So for organizations, there are always opportunities to do sponsorships. There are opportunities when we do events to get involved. So for our fall event is an actual ride. It's the Go Forward Team Ride. That this will be the third year that we're doing that. And you can put together a team, and you can do it virtually. You can raise money and say in support of Forward Foundation. Smith Organization is putting together a virtual team if you're not here locally, or if you want to come and be part of it, even if you're out of town, we would love to have that too. But there's so many different ways that you can support us, again, whether it's through just financial support, whether it's through a sponsorship. We always have those opportunities available. Many times businesses do fundraisers. They take on an organization and they adopt them and they do something in support of that. So if you don't have a group that want to do a virtual ride or support that way, you can do some other type of event and promote it as we're doing it on behalf of Forward Foundation VA. And honestly, Megan, that is something that it's a critical piece for nonprofits, because for small organizations like us, a lot of people don't know that we exist unless you've
Yes.
somehow heard about us or somebody that's involved with us. You hear about the big organizations, right? Everyone knows about the food pantries. Everyone knows about Virginia Blood Service, and they're doing amazing things. And I'm not taking anything away from that.
Mm-mm.
But typically businesses will go to those big organizations because everybody knows them, and we're going to support
Yes.
them. But it's the little ones on the ground like us
Yes.
that need the
Yeah.
support too. And one of the best ways to spread that awareness and to be of financial support to us and help us be able to support more families and offer more resources is to adopt us and to embrace us and adopt us and say, we're going to do this event on behalf of Forward Foundation. Because as a small nonprofit, the bandwidth that I have to be able to do multiple fundraisers a year is impossible. They cost a lot of money. They require a lot of people and effort. And it's just not possible when you only have a couple of employees. So having organizations that adopt us and embrace us and are willing to raise awareness and funding on our behalf is hugely beneficial to us. And you don't even have to be here with us to do it. We were so honored and humbled that we were asked to participate in the RVA Fashion Week, which they do it twice a year.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's become this huge deal within the fashion industry. And it's a 7-day event that they just did 2 weekends ago. They start on a Sunday and it goes through a Sunday. And every day of the week, they do something different to highlight local photographers, designers, everything fashion related. And then they do a grand finale at the end of the week. And they adopted us as their nonprofit beneficiary for the grand finale. And they're doing all of putting the event together. And we promoted the heck out of it because we're just so grateful for the opportunity. And they even allowed us to do a fundraising opportunity at the event. So we brought in some artists and we had a whole art gallery on display. And we were able to do a raffle. So for every glass of champagne that was purchased, you were entered into a raffle. And we had 2 winners that won beautiful pieces of custom artwork. And then we had pieces on display that the artists were splitting the proceeds with us for the event. So I'm all about thinking outside of the box and getting creative. And, a fundraiser doesn't have to be a golf tournament, and it doesn't have to be a car wash and a bake sale. Like, be creative and think of, anything that would be meaningful to different organizations that maybe they like to partake in, and we will find a way to make it work. And it's a great way for us to be able to promote your business and for what you're doing for the community and saying, this is how we give back, which I think is also very, very important.
So, Andrea, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, for reaching out. This to me, I mean, I don't know what your faith is, but to me, this was a God moment because
100%.
I think I mentioned before our interview that during grad school this past year, which is actually how I got SMU started back up again. It's how I got back on this trail, because I had started and then our participation kind of fell off. So I kind of let it go. But grad school opened this back up for me, full circle with the journalism piece. But during grad school, when I was doing my research on your organization, I realized that during grad school, I had come across your organization, but I didn't put the 2 and 2 together until I was starting to do my research. So I just think it is amazing what you guys are doing for the community. To me, you're not just doing community work on a grander scale, but you're also doing it on a each one reach one, which in turn affects the community as a whole. Because I always say with SMU, if we can reach just one person, if we can become better people for ourselves, we can in turn become better parents, which in turn raises a better generation. And so
That's
that's
right.
what you guys are doing with the Forward Foundation. And so with that, I just want to say thank you again for your time, for your efforts in the community, and to my audience. This is not, hopefully, Andrea will agree, but this is not going to be the end because you guys have so much good content that I want to be able to build a relationship with you guys, to be able to, on a journalistic piece in some way, shape, or form, continue to present this kind of information from you guys to the single moms that I am able to reach out to. So thank you. And I will definitely be producing more content for SMU. You guys know where to follow us. I'll put my links below, and I'll also include the links for Forward Foundation. And I hope you'll come back to visit us again.
I would love to. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for what you're doing and getting the messaging out.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, till next time.